Hey, welcome back everybody to another Nutty Ninja tutorial. This one's going to be on green belt. So check the timestamps in the description if you are stuck on a certain checkpoint. There's a lot of stuff to go over here. For the starting checkpoint, roll back at the beginning so you can clear your front wheel over that first box. And to hit this jump all in one go, you want to land as far on the left side as possible of that beam and bunny hop. When you're in this position, it's called a Spider-Man. And to lift yourself up from here, you want to slowly ease off the throttle and the lean simultaneously so your front wheel lifts and be able to clear that corner. You can also complete this checkpoint in one motion by landing on your front wheel and fapping the brake to lift the back wheel. Fapping the brake is holding down the throttle and mashing whichever button is mapped to the brake. I hit the X button since I'm on an Xbox controller. If you're on PlayStation, you can hit the square button instead. Mashing the buttons on top of the controller instead of the trigger is a much faster way. Another alternative method is to front wheel bounce to a fender grab. Although this is a much tougher technique, it is possible. And then one other way to do this is you can land and stop on this post with your front wheel and do a quick switch hop. Checkpoint 1 is a really awkward back wheel bounce to a steep overhang. To start off, you want to slowly roll into the base of this first ramp, lean back, and hop so your back wheel hits the side of the angled ramp above. This gives you extra momentum to push off and get that front wheel over the top. You'll need to apply the fapping technique here as well if you're going for the back wheel bounce to the front wheel. If you get stuck in this position, you can wiggle out of this gap with your front wheel, but you need to do a bunny hop in place and slide backwards by releasing the brake as you do the hop. Here's a better example of me hitting my back wheel on the inverted wall, so I lift my tire up and hardly have to fat brake. The alternative for CP1 is doing a front wheel bounce and flipping a fender. As you hit your front wheel, lean back and brake simultaneously for a split second. Once your front wheel comes off the platform, lean forward again and fat brake so you can spin the bike faster while you're midair. Another important part of this is to reverse at the beginning of the checkpoint so you can get as much momentum as possible when you're doing the front wheel bounce. To start off the second checkpoint, you don't need a crazy jump or anything, just enough momentum to pop that back wheel up and fat brake. And then once you're here, you want to slowly lean back and push your headlight off of the side of this so it can set you up for the bounce below. If you land too far to the right like I did, a brake bounce will be necessary. Ideally, you'd want to land near the back or center of this bounce. The brake bounce is not required, but it does help you keep in control and not drive the back wheel directly into the bomb. The alternative for CP2 is doing a Spider-Man climb at the first wall and then doing a back wheel hook off of the ledge of the green platform. From right here, you can release the brake and lean back to drop into the middle of this bounce below. CP3 is probably the easiest checkpoint of this track, it just takes a little bit of throttle control. You can either do a little brake climb or you could slow climb it. Checkpoint 4 requires a huge back wheel bounce. You can either brake bounce or do a full speed one. The type of bounce that you do is dependent on how you approach the first part. So this first method I'm going to show you is a little throttle tap when you make contact with this wall. This will help you go straight down to the bounce, and I know that this looks really weird, but you have to build up this much momentum. Your butt has to basically be hitting the floor when you do this bounce. Alternatively, you can push off the wall of CP4 by hitting the brake, and when you push off, you're aiming to hit the other wall behind you with your back wheel. When you do this, you get more horizontal momentum and can do a full speed hop. The last method I want to show is a slow drop down and a brake bounce. Right as I'm hitting the ground, I will tap the brake for just a split second, and you want to be at a pretty good angle, like a 45-degree angle when you jump. Checkpoint 5 has a few parts to it. The first is a steep climb and a little bit of an overhang. But what you want to do is you want to slide up this first section so your front wheel clears the top and doesn't push you backwards. You want to tap the brake once your front wheel clears the top and be able to land on your front tire. From here, you want to perform an endo hop, landing near the back of the wooden post so you can get as much speed and momentum as possible. For these other two jumps, it's a lot easier if you do it all in one go, and you don't need a really good jump for that last post. The alternatives for CP5 are you could slow climb the beginning, and you could also take your time hopping off of the last two wooden beams. Checkpoint 6 can be really frustrating when you first start off Greenbelt because of how massive this first endo hop is. But what I like to do is I like to back up from the start, probably a wheel length, and then get my back wheel as high up in the air and slam it down. But I allow my front wheel to roll forward a little bit first to maximize the energy generated by the back wheel. From that first endo hop, you need to gain enough height to get your front wheel over the top of the post and lean forward holding the gas. Fap the brake if you need to raise that back wheel up. For the second half of Checkpoint 6, I like to give a short burst of throttle at this point to set up my back wheel on the back of the box. If your front wheel lifts too quickly like mine did, retry the setup because you'll need to have a lot of speed and a good angle to clear this jump. A couple of other methods to pass the ending of this checkpoint are to squish the final platform, which is maintaining the grip and momentum throughout the CP, or you can stop at the edge of the box, regain the balance, lean back, and slide the back wheel to gain enough speed. Another way to do the beginning of Checkpoint 6 is to do a flip back and get enough momentum to back wheel bounce and land to a Spider-Man climb. I encourage people to try out different techniques for checkpoints that they feel stuck on, because you never know what might work for you. This could be a very consistent strategy for one person and impossible for another. One last strat that you could do for the beginning of Checkpoint 6 is a box climb. I don't recommend this, but it is just another way that you can do it. It's basically just snapping your back wheel to the wall and slow climbing it. Checkpoint 7 is comprised of a slow climb and a couple of consecutive hops. So at the beginning of this, you want to approach the curve wall slowly, trying to land in the center of it with your back wheel first. If you land too fast on it, you're going to have the suspension push you backwards. You should be trying to hit this second part all in one motion. If you do get stuck though, you can use some back wheel control and save it. Alternatively, you can do a front wheel bounce on the first wooden log to a fender grab. The beginning of Checkpoint 8 is comprised of a vertical climb with steps in it. So one of the things that I like to do is as I'm going up the vertical, I do little bursts of throttle for each step. At the top of this platform, you want to set up a large endo hop by balancing your front wheel near the middle of the log. Allow your front wheel to roll forward so the back wheel grips near the edge of the platform and bunny hop. Once you're rebalanced on the final platform, slowly accelerate at the base of the ramp to 100% throttle. Another method for the beginning of this checkpoint is to go up very quickly and land on your fender or your front wheel first. For the second part of this checkpoint, You can do a squishy jump, which is letting your front wheel hang over the top and getting a bunny hop off the edge. At the beginning of checkpoint 9, you want to start by getting a massive back wheel brake hop off of this platform. The goal is to hit the entirety of the curved ramp behind us to generate enough speed for the massive bounce at the end. As you approach the end of the curved ramp, lean forward for a split second. This will help align the bike for the next obstacle. To clear this jump effectively, you want your back wheel to drag off the edge with your front wheel hanging over the top and lean forward so you maintain horizontal speed. Have a strong angle when you're going into this back wheel bounce. It's a massive one. You don't need the front flip while you're midair, but it can help if you're struggling landing on your front wheel first. Alternatively, you can move back at the start of the checkpoint, right off at full speed, and accelerate into the backwards hop. CP10 is a endo hop into an awkward overhang. You want to start by getting a steep angle and slamming that back wheel into the ground. If you don't hit the initial jump, don't worry because you can save it from this spot. You're aiming to land the engine on the corner of this obstacle, and from here you can just fap the brake and raise the back tire. This is a better example of how this should be completed, all in one motion from the second endo hop. You want to drive your engine into the edge of the top platform. It'll help pop your back wheel up. Some alternative methods for checkpoint 10 is you can slow climb the start and fender grab the final platform by leaning back while you're in midair. At the start of checkpoint 11, land near the bottom of the first ramp and immediately climb. Let go of lean so the front wheel lifts on its own. This will help set up for a fender grab. Lean back slightly while in midair and grab the fender. From here, you'll want to do a switch hop to the front wheel. Place your bike vertically, hold down brake, and bunny hop so the tires switch places. For this tight endo hop, allow the front wheel to roll slightly forward and use all of the platform with the back wheel to generate enough energy for the hop. You should try and hit this last bounce all in one motion. A couple of alternatives to checkpoint 11 is to bounce the back wheel off the side and land on the front wheel at the beginning. You can also stop on the bounce if you feel confident in your back wheel control. Alright, we made it to the final part of Greenbelt, checkpoint 12. This is a slide and a back wheel bounce. At the beginning, you want to do the slide so you can jump far enough and land at the bottom of this bounce. By landing near the bottom of the bounce, it'll give yourself enough room to clear the bomb underneath the ledge. After you bounce, lean back midair to raise the back wheel slightly and you don't run into the bomb. Push off the side of this wall to get enough height and make sure your front wheel is hanging over the top. If you mess up on the wall bounce, don't panic because you can always try to lean back and grab the fender. Alright everyone, that's it for this tutorial. I hope it'll help you pass Greenbelt or get the medal that you so desire. And make sure you guys like and subscribe to the channel if you guys want to see similar stuff to this. Let me know also in the comments on which stuff I should talk about next.